Hi everybody, and welcome to this presentation for your A-Level Textiles, just to talk you quickly through evaluation and how you can use that throughout your boards and your sketchbooks. So very firstly, we will look at evaluating your developing work. So evaluation can work at the end of your final piece and through all of your work. Evaluating the final piece, so tips and questions for that. Looking at those higher grades, so trying to think about how you can extend and deepen what you've said, and then looking at some examples of evaluation just so that we can get an idea of what it is that we're talking about and what's required from you. So very firstly, evaluating your developing work. So here we're going to follow some questions that you can ask yourself to help construct your evaluation. Don't use the questions in your work, but use it to help you construct what you're going to write about. So talk about the theme for your project. So this comes in your brief and your final boards or sketchbook work. How have you developed your ideas and how did your work change through the project? So again, this is development final, but think about this across all of your work as well. How much reference material artists did you find? Do you think you should have done more or less? So sometimes when we're looking for particular materials or information, we can't quite find what we wanted. So we can comment on that here and also refer back to it in your final. What artists or art movements or cultures have you looked at to help inspire you? So here in your artist research, talk about this. You can mention it through your other boards, but also refer back to it in your final evaluation piece. What materials, tools and techniques did these artists use? So refer to this in the artist research and again back in the final piece, and you might use this across development and exploration as well. So none of these are restricted, these are just ideas of where you might want to use these comments and evaluation skills. How have your skills developed during the project? So this in development and exploration, and definitely in your final piece comment on what you've learned. What do you think you've done particularly well? So things that you've liked, what could you improve on? Things that haven't gone so well across all of it, exploration, development, and final. This is a sort of constant self-reflective sort of comment. And are there any aspects of your studies that you wish you had explored further? So this is looking towards the future and what your arts practice might look like and how it's been inspired by doing this work. Evaluating your final piece. So again, these are questions you can ask yourself to help you construct your evaluation. It's not to include these questions, okay? These are to sort of trigger sort of reminders of what it is that you need to achieve. Remember to reference your work back to your brief. How have you used line, tone, colour and shape? So this is similar to a sort of art critique of your work. Talk about how these things relate to what your brief is, how you've tried to apply them to get that message across to people. So talking about messages and meanings, did those come across to people? Did you convey them? Were you successful in that? And so that's sort of referring back again to your sort of descriptions about your line, your tone, why you've chosen things. Are you happy with your final piece? So comment on any elements you like in particular and why you like those. This is the in-depth stuff, the why part. Why have you done this? Why do you like it? And is there anything you would change and why? So again, this is heading towards the why part, is heading towards those higher grades, self-reflection, think about it, apply that artistic language, and we'll talk a bit more about artistic language and things you can comment on in a sec. So this is a sort of section getting you to think a bit further beyond those questions. Just giving you some words and some language and some things that you could talk about. Not all of it will apply to everything that you do or everybody within the group, okay, but it's just getting you thinking, okay. So story, what's a story? You know, what is that story? What's it been inspired by? Talk about it. The presentation, so in your presentation of the work that you've done, are there things that are sort of hidden underneath? Is it reflected by something? Have you reduced something, simplified something? Is it abstract? Is it realistic? Is it fully in focus? You know, is that your full focus? Think about it. The details, so the little extras that you've added to try and lift the work, to try and just link it in with what you've done. thinking about linking it with the artists, stuff that you become particularly interested in, or things that maybe are acting together to bring contrast. That might be colours or textures. Shape and form, so the use of your shapes, are they hard, soft, are they, some of you might have relief elements. So just have a really think about this. You might have used silhouettes. Value, tone, light, so this applies to your colours and your range of tones. Shadows, have you used strong colours, are they subdued, are they muted? Think about it, comment on it. Colour and hue, what's your colour palette? Some of you have done those. Talk about them. Is it broad, limited? Why have you done that? Texture, surface and pattern, so again this is the same here. Really have a good think about why you've chosen particular things, and there will be reasons why you've decided on something. It might be a surface quality, or it might be that it reflects something from your brief or from your topic. Talk about it, talk about that. And then the use of the media and materials that you've had, how is that being used? Are we seeing the seams? Are there distressed materials? Talk about processes that you've used. Are they normal processes? Are they things that are traditional processes? Are there layers in there? These are the things that you need to talk about within your evaluation. Also, I feel through your boards as well, so this should be useful. So here's some examples. These are ones that I've selected from college. This example I think would probably be a grade B. It kind of touches on things and talks about things, so it's referring to stuff, but it could be a bit more in depth. We could have a piece, an actual piece of final writing there. So talking about having a piece of final writing, this is a good example of a final board. You've got your final designs there, and you've got some techniques, you've got some lovely pictures of the piece, and then quite a detailed piece of writing, referring back to the beginning boards and the brief. A bit again about, like I've said at the end, talking about what your future might be with this work, how it's influenced you, and just really how you've thought about it. So have a good look at that piece of writing. So that's probably an A grade level piece of writing. Then have a quick look through these. You might have to go in a bit closer to that evaluation piece. And then what do you think of this example of a final board? How would you assess it and why? So I'm not going to tell you that. You have a think about it and just use that as reference for yourselves when comparing what it is that you've seen. And then this is another one, again, another final outcome board. Again, what do you think of this example? Have a read of those, what they've written in there, and just have a think about how you could write it, what you might say, how would you assess that as well, and why would you give it those grades. So really thinking about the more in-depth words. So just to support you with thinking about those more in-depth words, then how could you use, what languages could you use, what words could you use? Here's just a selection of words, so you could refer to this list, and just when you're looking through what you've written, just see if you can switch in some of the words that you use with some of these words here, and any other words that you can find, any other art language words. Have a look out there, and just some things that artists get interested in. Words like symmetry, asymmetrical. You might make an asymmetrical skirt that's got one side longer than the other. You might have got daubs of colour, blobs of colour. What's the focal point of your piece? Have you got like an embroidery or an embellishment? So talk about those. Have you distorted something? You might have taken something that's originally a shape and just changed that, and it no longer looks kind of in proportion, but it's telling that story, that message. So use these words. Okay. So I hope you found that useful. It's just a quick fly through. Hopefully you can pause the video in places if you need to, but you will also find it referenced in Teams. Okay, thank you everybody.